today's episode, I will play as Portugal and show you how to create an immensely powerful Portuguese army through colonies, which will allow me to transform this small country into a mighty European hegemon ready to embark on a conquest of the world. Greetings, imperialists. Lookas here. Portugal is undoubtedly one of the most powerful colonial nations, even though economically it lags far behind England or Spain. Likewise, in terms of military strength, it is much weaker. However, in the next 50 to 70 years, Portugal will become the strongest of these countries. And I'm almost ashamed to admit that I've never played Portugal as a colonial power before. I've only played it for the so-called Exodus strategy, where I would ultimately form a powerful Brazil. Today, however, that will change. This is thanks to the proper use of Portugal's powerful missions for colonization as well as for conquest afterward, because unfortunately, in many guides, this is done incorrectly. Next, we have an excellent heir for colonization, an era bonus that we need to get as quickly as possible, and cheaper advisors who will help us unlock ideas swiftly. Privileges, I'll limit myself to these few, as Portugal will be involved in several wars, and it's through these wars that I will primarily regain crown land. Unless, of course, something goes wrong, I'm recruiting the army to its full capacity because I'm counting on getting a cheaper military advisor from the agenda. And it worked. Then I cancel the recruitment, which allows me to recover a lot of manpower at the Portuguese court. First, I remove the focus on diplomatic points, hire a cheaper administrative advisor, a diplomatic one, a level 3 I know, and soon after, a cheaper military advisor once the agenda is completed. Rivals, Morocco, Granada, and I'll wait a bit for Tlemcen. I quickly form an alliance with Spain, followed by a royal marriage. Unfortunately though, this alliance with Spain will last only until they complete this mission and then that one. At that point, they'll gain claims for a personal union over Portugal and will likely break the alliance with you. Next, I send a diplomat to improve relations with England, but beware, I won't take a royal marriage with them. This alliance will also be broken soon. Specifically, after completing this mission, because it will grant us permanent territorial claims and a moral bonus for the army. An alliance with the Papal States might be useful, so I form it. Thanks to this, I'll have better relations, and remember that we gain more papal influence when they like us more. Then I temporarily lower army maintenance and fort upkeep. Wars won't happen for another 5 years or so. I also disband the cavalry as I realistically can't afford it. Now, I'm building a flagship, which is a very important stage in playing as Portugal. However, it will be a trade ship as it has increased speed. Look how much faster it is compared to a heavy ship, and this will be crucial because Portugal has a unique development option that increases your fleet's exploration range. Additionally, it will have bonuses for fortress bombardment to make it cheaper and increase trade power for your trade fleet, since we'll use this ship for trading in our downtime. Next, I'll build more trade ships up to the fleet limit. I also adopt the Portuguese naval doctrine. I remove heavy ships from my fleet and mothball them because they are very expensive to maintain. As for the trade fleet, I send half of it to protect trade, preferably in Seville, and the other half to hunt pirates, again in Seville. I also send a diplomat to build a spy network in Granada. I'll need a few provinces from them. Another diplomat is assigned to generate favors with Castile. They'll be very useful. Soon I complete the mission for the English alliance, which amusingly leads to breaking the alliance with England and starting to improve relations with Castile instead. I also distribute local organization in Portugal, for now only in the northern part, opting for the first one that increases goods production and administrative development. Thanks to this, I'm earning almost 1 gold. Yes, I know, astonishing. I send claims to Malaga, which will then allow me to make territorial claims on Morocco. Those will be needed too. In 1447, my prince ascended the throne, triggering the event for Duke of Coimbra, which provides some really nice modifiers. Unless, of course, you prefer stability. Once your flagship is built, you can assign your explorer to it. You start with one at the beginning of the game and set out to explore the world. Before 1449, it's a good idea to get military access from Castile and raise your army and fort maintenance 6 months before the war. And don't forget your fleet, as many naval battles will need to be fought. Once the truce with Granada ends, it's worth waiting until November to reclaim territory before declaring war. However, you must always be ready to declare war when you see Castilian troops approaching Granada's borders. The next country I'll aim to improve relations with in the meantime is France. In November, I declare war, with my primary target being Granada and a secondary one being Morocco. I call Castile to help. It's very important that your troops immediately move to occupy all provinces except the one you've claimed, as Castile will hand it over to you anyway. My fleet and Castile's intercepted the Moroccan fleet at the strait. This will likely be a victory, as we have a significant advantage in heavy ships. I love naval battles. The fall of Granada is inevitable, especially since, look, I can bombard fortresses so cheaply, it would be a shame not to take advantage of that. and of course my cheaper advisor died. Just my luck. The war with Morocco is progressing very quickly and smoothly. There aren't even that many battles. After gaining a technological edge, my opponents stand no chance in this war. I've achieved full naval dominance in the Mediterranean, which will cause Tunis to withdraw from the war. Here's how I end the war with Morocco. I acquire these provinces, with the most important being Tafilalt because it contains a gold mine, but a very special kind of gold mine. In addition, I humiliate Morocco. Oh, and Tangiers is also important because it grants us a cheap inquisitor with a 75% cost reduction as well as a good number of points and territorial claims. Thanks to this, I now have a level 3 advisor who is cheaper than a level 2 advisor. It's a great deal. I also take Granada for myself, since ultimately I plan to conquer the entire Iberian Peninsula anyway. Yes, that event with the gold mine was exactly what I was waiting for. It always occurs when a European country acquires a gold mine outside Europe. And it's so good because it increases gold production by 50%. This province will soon account for about a third of my budget, provided you develop it properly. After conquering these provinces, I got 5% from Morocco. Not much, but it's something. Now, as Portugal, I'm also changing the culture in 3 of my provinces in the Alentejo region to Andalusian culture. It's essential that this culture belongs to the Iberian culture group. And why I want this particular culture will become clear during colonization. In the meantime, I've developed Lisbon to level 30 to help with the Renaissance institution. The first government reform is, as always, aimed at taxes, since I earn a lot from them. Felipe has been born, a pretty solid heir. For my first age ability, I take Portuguese colonization. For now, I'm not spending diplomatic points, I'm saving them up to the maximum. Meanwhile, I've started exploring the coasts of America. Using papal influence points, I purchased cheaper building costs and a tax bonus. By some miracle, I managed to secure an alliance with France, a huge success. But of course my luck strikes again. France is currently at war with the Austrian Emperor, although it didn't look entirely bad. Maybe that's why France wanted the alliance. The Tafilalt province has been added, autonomy reduced, but more importantly, the religion here must be changed. An incorrect religion decreases production, which is bad. You don't need to change the culture though. But even now, while it's not perfect, I'm running a significant surplus. The downside to this solution is that you'll occasionally need to manually reduce inflation. Next, I took out 1% loans to pay off my 4% loans. Thanks to this, my debt now costs me almost nothing. I embraced the institution and caught up on technology, but only administrative tech. And unsurprisingly, for my first idea group, I picked exploration ideas. But what I'll do with these ideas in about 50 years might surprise you. Alright, the first wars are behind me. Thanks to them, I've improved my economy a bit. I also have my first colonists now. In the near future, I'll focus on colonizing and I'll soon show you all the steps to do it properly. I start by selecting a colonial policy. At first, to quickly establish my first colony, I set the policy to repression. However, at some point in this episode, I'll switch to assimilation policy and I'll explain why when the time comes. Important. The most critical thing, do not complete your colonial missions as they become available. It's not the right time to click them yet. That time will come soon, but not just yet. With the arrival of the first colonist, I can select additional privileges to enhance colonization. First, I pick the one that speeds up colonization. For the nobility, there's a very useful privilege that reduces colony maintenance costs and grants us a conquistador. And for the clergy, there's a privilege that gives plus 50% native assimilation. It's incredibly strong, especially when combined with the colonial policy. As Portugal, where you colonize is also very important, especially regarding the Brazil-related mission tree. The key is to complete the missions in such a way that you can activate all of them at once, including the final one. At the same time, I cannot neglect my path to Africa and then through the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. Somewhere along this route lies a monument crucial for Portuguese colonization. I send my first colonist to Cape Verde. This will give me access to the eastern coast of South America and the island of São Tomé. Oh great, I can sell the institution to Castile. Thanks to this, I can now afford to pay my level 3 advisors. I also make sure to enact this national decision now, so I don't forget later. Luck smiled upon me again, as Castile just rejected the Iberian wedding. Though, to be fair, this isn't necessarily great for this playthrough. I've upgraded the gold mine, and it's now giving me nearly 9 gold in pure income. For my next stage ability, I obviously pick increased development. After paying off all my loans, I can begin building improvements across the country. In the beginning, I build marketplaces where it's profitable, specifically in provinces with those trade center icons, or in provinces with high diplomatic development, like my gold mine. Then, in Portugal, the second priority is to literally build churches everywhere. In this country, it's simply worth it because you'll earn more from them than from production. After 2 years, I established my first colony. When it comes to colonizing Brazil, 2 things are worth mentioning here. The best areas for colonization are somewhere around here. These are the so-called dry lands, which have minimal penalties to colonization. Still, you'll need to colonize a lot of provinces elsewhere. Specifically, you need to have everything colonized in these 3 regions. Only then can you begin the process of proper colonization. And I begin the colonization with Africa. I send a colonist to Africa in the normal way as far as possible. For me, this is the farthest province I can reach right now. At the same time, I send the army here for protection because there is a large population of native people who are aggressive. In fact, they are already attacking me. Once the colonist arrives, I withdraw him. This colony will continue to grow, but much more slowly. The next step is to send a colonist using the expulsion of minorities option. And that's exactly why I needed 3 provinces with Andalusian culture. The bonuses we receive this way depend on the province's development level, which is why I chose provinces with low development costs. And yes, that development will be taken from here, but I'll manage. In South America, I also send a small army with a conquistador to explore the continent. Apart from discovering the map, we will also have a chance to trigger events that generate monarchy points. We'll also have a chance to find the legendary golden cities, which I have never managed to discover in a guide playthrough. Oh, here's an example of such an event. And thanks to this, with just 1 colonist, I am creating 2 colonies at once. The second one is 100% more expensive, but I can handle that too. I send another conquistador to North America, and honestly, having more than 2 is not worth it because they tend to join up during their journeys. Another thing you need to watch out for as Portugal is Catholic reform desire. You always pick the option that gives you as little of it as possible. It's logical. Portugal wants the age of exploration to last as long as possible. Meanwhile, my explorers have already reached the Indian Ocean, the 3rd government reform, and you'll be surprised, I won't pick the tax one, I'm going for colonization. This government reform reduces the cost of colonization via expulsion by 100%. Extra gold from the gold rush is always useful. And the first Spanish colony in South America has appeared. Look how slow it is, only 30 settlers, while mine has significantly more. I can also now reach administrative technology level 7, so I activate the golden era. Yes, this is the right time. I'll save some points this way. But even so, it's worth doing this ahead of time. Now I pick expansion ideas, because there's simply nothing better for pure colonization. Thanks to the golden era, I'll also develop ideas more cheaply now. And to speed up the process even further, I set my focus to administrative power. I'll also attack the natives in Brazil to speed up the process of forming my large colony in this region. It's even better because I just finished colonizing my first province. Look, I transferred my diplomatic and military points here. 16 development levels, not bad. Next, I send my colonists back to Africa to finish the settlement process. Now let me show you the power of Portuguese exploration. Here's a normal fleet with a regular explorer. As you can see, he won't discover much. However, my main exploration fleet has far more capabilities. As for the natives, I want to completely eliminate them so they don't threaten my colonies via annex migratory tribe. Otherwise, conquering the province would just make them move elsewhere. Besides, their movement in this region causes another issue. They reveal what resources are in the area, and once they do, the chance of getting gold disappears. So, to the tribes, I say sayonara, or however that's said in Portuguese. When you have 2 colonists, you send the first to Africa to colonize, preferably uninhabited islands. The second goes to another area, somewhere here. Then I recall at least 1 colonist unless you can afford to recall both. I can afford it, so I recall both. And I send them on the mission to relocate Andalusians, obviously to the most profitable places. You're probably getting it by now. I have 3 such provinces with that culture because I'll soon have 3 colonists. And once I finish developing my ideas, I'll show you why this drastically improves colony quality. This is an example of an event that happens if you don't expel the natives, so sometimes it's worth leaving them. I now have 5 provinces, so my first colony has formed. At the start, self-governing colony is the best option because it gives you an extra colonist, making colonization in this region much more effective. Once the colony is big enough, I'll switch it either to a crown colony for military power or a private colony for naval power. Each colony type has different bonuses, and for making money, private colony is better than a crown colony. When your colonial nation is established, you can improve relations with it, it will be more loyal. More importantly though, you need to send subsidies. As you can see, the colony doesn't make much money yet. At first, you don't need to give much, 2 gold is enough. Since that's roughly how much colonization costs, 4 gold would be ideal. With exploration ideas completed, I start spending diplomatic and military points to develop these provinces to level 15. This allows me to unlock infrastructure expansion, which further reduces development costs. Later on, these 3 provinces will reach a maximum of level 10 development, the best cost-effectiveness ratio. As I mentioned earlier, this development will be moved here because if I wanted to develop provinces in the colonies, the cost here is 61, whereas here it's 28. It's worth it, right? An extra bonus is faster colony growth. Also, don't forget to complete agendas for faster colonization. I finally finished expansion ideas. A bit late, but honestly, this campaign had a ton of negative stability events and admin point losses. Now, I take this overpowered policy and activate Portugal's colonization missions, because this is the right moment when you have 3 colonists. Unfortunately, I still need 3 more colonized provinces to unlock the gold bonus in this region. So now we have all the colonization bonuses. Look how fast these colonies grow. The 50% extra colonist chance is huge. And once I complete this mission, the gold chance will increase significantly, from 10 to 14% to 22 to 27%. Big difference. I'll share a neat exploit with you. Whether you want to use it is up to you. When a colony surpasses 400 population, the game determines what good will be produced there. But if you press Alt F4 at that moment, the province resets to a question mark, and once it surpasses 400 settlers again, a different resource appears. A more legitimate way is to abandon the colony and resend a settler, since the resource will be randomized again. I actually forgot that I've had an achievement, the Navigator, waiting to be completed for a while. To get it, I need a province in India, so I'll just buy one from Orissa for 2,500 gold. Probably the worst deal I've ever made. But hey, achievement unlocked. Oh, the game crashed! After getting that achievement, it's time to change my colonial policy. An extra 20 settlers, when I already have 225, makes no real difference, but additional assimilation gives me way more benefits. If I hadn't been chasing that achievement, I would have changed this policy right after completing the mission. Now, I can easily reach 150% native assimilation. This stat is important because it directly boosts local goods production, depending on the native population of the area. The more there were originally, the better the production bonus when the colony is fully established. That's why Africa is a much better place to utilize this mechanic. With Brazil somewhat secured, my colony there has also raised its flag. This flag is crucial because it discourages other nations from colonizing nearby. That's why I won't be pushing into Colombia. Castile already has a colony there. At least until I take it from them. My next goal is to establish a colonial nation in every colonial region, starting with the Caribbean. To raise the flag, you need to create a colonial nation and be Catholic. This makes the AI much less likely to colonize that region unless they have a specific mission for it. I've discovered Kyoto. Guess I'll be visiting Japan soon. Colonialism has spawned, but not in my land. In Spain? Seriously? I also found an island with a monument I need. All I have to do is send a settler there to claim it for myself. Alright, since my colonies are up and running, at least one fully established, another in progress, and more to come in the near future, it's time to shift my focus to conquest. And first on the list, Morocco. Unfortunately, my alliance with Castile is coming to an end, as they are the only viable rival available. Honestly, this is a great moment for me. I planned to attack Spain only when I could field a bigger army than them, and now I can. Not to mention my economy is twice as strong as theirs. Looks like I've discovered both Americas, but still no sign of the legendary cities of gold. And that's bad. Castile was the first to establish a colony in Mexico, and I didn't even notice they were already there. This causes some annoying drawbacks like reduced settler growth and significantly worsened relations with Castile, but does anyone really care? I already have 5 provinces in the Mexico region. Now I just need a colony to form here. Next I move on to another colonial region, use this map for reference. It could be either Louisiana or Eastern America. Here, I also want to start by establishing a small 5-province colony. But more importantly, the time has come for my first war with Spain, with France's help. This should be an easy war. Honestly, I'm counting on that, since most of the Spanish army is currently in Mexico. Oh, and at the same time, the Protestant Reformation has begun. And indeed, there are no Spanish troops in Spain. I also settled in Micronesia and got that monument at level 1 right away, which already gives me a nice boost. But more importantly, there's that 5% chance bonus, which makes upgrading this monument totally worth it, especially since for colonial nations money stops being an issue at a certain point. From the Spanish, I definitely want these 4 provinces you see now. This will allow me to release 4 vassals. I also took over an almost completed Castilian colony with my army. And I'll conquer the remaining ones because that will let me form colonial Louisiana. So the first war with Castile is behind me. Not even a coalition will form. But either way, releasing vassals is a good move since we can reclaim a lot of territory from Castile via reconquest. I think I went a bit overboard with the number of colonies. After the war with Castile, I'm moving on to conquering the tribes in North America and Mexico. These types of conquests don't cost many administrative points, so I'm preparing for future wars and picking administrative ideas. Later, I'll probably pair them with diplomatic ideas. I recommend marking your colonies as a nation of special interest. That way you'll be notified if, for example, Portuguese Mexico goes to war and you'll have to intervene using the enforce peace option. Unfortunately for me, they'll accept. A new Portugal has formed and I'm immediately marking it as a nation of interest. And now, the age of reformation has begun. Unfortunately, this has significantly slowed down my colonization. While conquering the northern tribes, I didn't neglect colonization and established another colony, again under self-governing in Rio de Plata. My next target is Peru and getting my hands on Incan gold. I also created Portuguese Louisiana. Alright, since I've now established colonies practically everywhere possible and conquests in North America are underway, and I'm starting to make really good money, it's time to show you how to develop these colonies, because that's very important too. It's best to start with Brazil. It will bring Portugal the most money because of this monument. It increases production by 0.5 in the entire Brazil region. That's a huge boost. This is one of the most powerful economic monuments in the game. Next, we need to build manufactories. Build them wherever possible. They're practically always worth it since they boost both trade income and tariff revenue. And tariffs are mostly affected by the colony's production income plus trade income. Realistically, the biggest money will come at tech level 14, and sometimes it's even worth saving up money for that moment. If you think waging 6 wars simultaneously is too much for a Portugal like mine, think again. Things are looking pretty good right now. Unfortunately, a high number of wars is always necessary in the Aztec region. This is due to a very weird network of alliances and vassals in the area. Here's what Castile looks like after the Second War. I also managed to circumnavigate the globe first. After all my wars, I've started integrating my vassals, literally 4 of them at once. It's costly in diplomatic points, but I want a nice looking map. After another war, things looked even better. I also implemented parliamentarism, allowing me to complete an agenda for an extra colonist. And this may surprise you, but this is the moment when I'm deleting my exploration ideas and replacing them with maritime ideas, because they scale well with fleet building and trade. Besides, let's be honest, when was the last time you saw someone take maritime ideas? I also want to strengthen Brazil even further, so I'm assigning the first organization for goods production. Although, maybe I should have started with the gold provinces, I also changed Brazil's colony type to private for now. Because remember, this increases its production by 20% and gives me more money. Now that I have tech level 14, I have a lot of manufactories to build. I'm also getting massive gold shipments from Brazil and Mexico. And here's a fun fact for you. The amount of gold transported depends on 2 things. First, all modifiers that increase the treasure fleet. Second, the number of gold mines in a colony. Meanwhile, the development level of a gold mine affects how quickly this bar fills up. At max level, all gold mines at 10 development, you get a gold transport every 4 to 6 months. A little later, I conquered the last Castilian provinces, which means I also inherited all of their colonies. That means I have even more manufactories to build. Once Portugal starts making huge amounts of money, it's best to start upgrading its monuments. For example, the ones in Madrid, Lisbon, and Demnate, anything that boosts trade power and income globally. I also built 500 ships, the vast majority of them being trade ships. I sent them all over trade nodes where I noticed a lot of money was being left behind. My goal was to funnel as much of that trade income to me as possible. I also need to send a fleet to the Cape because I have a gap here. And because of that, I'm losing a lot of money that's flowing from Zanzibar and Coromandel, where I don't even own a single province. My fleet is transferring it all. In Malacca, I own just 1 province, yet I'm sending 11 gold forward. I should probably increase my trade fleet here. And ultimately, all these changes resulted in the emergence of global trade. Since I'm collecting nearly 300 gold in Seville, while Genoa only has 50 and the English Channel doesn't even have 100, this gives me a total income of 843 gold. Just a little more to reach 1000. I should have conquered India or something in that region, but instead I focused on colonizing the Americas and building colonial power. But hey, I told you we'd have a truly unstoppable army here, and right now it's just decent. The truth is, now that I have the money, I can finally focus on that. Especially since I have almost 4000 development, world conquest is absolutely possible. To increase my army, I need to build a ton of regiment camps, but not in my territory, in my colonies. I'll also gradually switch my colonies to crown colonies. Each change costs 1000 gold, but the modifiers make it worth every coin. Crown colonies are also more loyal, so I can raise their tax burden up to 50%. After upgrading my colonies, most of their provinces now have a manufactory and a regiment camp. I also modified all my colonies' agreements to get a small military force limit bonus, increase gold fleet size, and reduce their independence desire. And now that I've managed all my colonies, they have massive armies on their own. Meanwhile, they've increased my army cap by around 400,000. That's insanely powerful, and we can boost it even further once we unlock the new military building at tech level 22. And another great bonus, gold shipments from Brazil. It used to be 900 gold per transport, now it's 1900. So yeah, I won't be running out of money anytime soon. For my next idea group, I'll probably go for mercenaries. It will help me conquer the world more efficiently. Portugal now has nearly 4000 development. I can choose between 2 different hegemonies, and soon I'll even qualify for a third. So as you can see, playing for colonies can be a pretty solid world conquest strategy. Oh, and I almost have 1000 gold of pure income. And the best part, I can switch to Spain. That would give me access to even stronger military ideas and an insane mission tree that I'll complete soon anyway. And remember, Spain practically gets a guaranteed personal union over Austria and Great Britain, though not much is left of that Austria. Another country with hidden world conquest potential, this tiny Italian kingdom, Monferrato. With the right management of aggressive expansion, I'm turning it into a true monster.